All right, let's talk about a kingdom that lasted for almost 1.5 millennia. Think about that. And they didn't do it with just swords and shields. No, the Anuradhapura Kingdom in Sri Lanka did it with sheer genius. They looked at a harsh, dry landscape and didn't just survive in it. They completely reshaped it, building a civilization on mind-blowing engineering and later, a deep, transformative faith. So here's the big question, right? How do you build an empire that lasts 1,500 years in a place that's, well, arid? We're talking about Sri Lanka's dry zone. You've got blistering heat, monsoons that dump a ton of rain, and then nothing. Long, brutal droughts. So if you're one of the founders, you have this massive problem to solve. How do you build a stable society when your most critical resource, water, is totally unpredictable? The answer they came up with? Well, it would define their entire civilization. And that answer, simply put, was water. But not just finding it, mastering it. We're talking about an incredible command of hydraulic engineering. These guys didn't just put up with their environment, they took control. They built this unbelievably complex, interconnected web of reservoirs and canals that became the literal foundation for all their power, all their wealth. You know, to really get what made Anuradhapura tick, you have to understand this one big idea. This wasn't just a kingdom that was good at irrigation. It was what we call a hydraulic civilization. And what that means is that everything, political power, the economy, who's on top of the social ladder, it all came down to who controlled the water. And the key piece of the puzzle, the heart of this whole system, was their man-made reservoirs, which they called a weva. Okay, just look at some of these achievements. This is where you see their genius in action. You've got the Kala Weva. I mean, King Dēvānaṃpiya literally diverted an entire river just to get water to the capital city. Amazing! Then there's the Bisokotua sluice, a super clever valve they invented to control water flow and stop everything from silting up. But honestly, the one that just blows my mind is the Yoda Ala Canal. Seriously, let's just park on this number for a second. 10 centimeters per kilometer. 10. Do you know how small that is? Over 87 kilometers, this canal had a gradient that was so incredibly gentle, it was practically flat. To put that in perspective for you, that's like a drop of just 6 inches over a full mile. That is precision engineering on a level that is just staggering. I mean, we would struggle to do that today, even with all our modern lasers and tech. So this incredible ability to control water, to tame the monsoon, it did way more than just help them grow rice. It shaped everything. Their entire society, their politics, who had power and who didn't. You could almost say that power quite literally flowed right out of their canals. And this is how it worked. It's actually pretty brilliant. The kingdom's main source of income was a grain tax, right? The bojakrapati. But you only get grain if you have water for irrigation. So who becomes the most important people in this society? Not warriors, not priests, but the Golvi, the cultivators, the farmers. They were the highest caste because they were the ones with the expert knowledge of the hydraulic system. The top government officials, they were all chosen from the Golvi. Power didn't come from the top down, it flowed up from the very people who managed the water. All right, so they've got it figured out. They've got a stable food supply, they've got wealth, all thanks to their engineering prowess. The kingdom is thriving. But then something new arrives in the 3rd century BCE. A force so powerful it would completely transform the nation, giving it a whole new identity, a new reason for being, and, well, it would inspire some of the most breathtaking art and architecture you've ever seen. And here it is. This is arguably the single biggest turning point in the kingdom's entire history. A missionary named Arahat Mahinda, who is actually the son of the legendary Indian emperor Ashoka, arrives and introduces Buddhism to the king. And it doesn't stop there. Shortly after, his sister, Sanghamitra, comes over and she brings with her a sapling from the sacred Bodhi tree, the actual tree the Buddha sat under to achieve enlightenment. And that tree is still there today, by the way. It's the oldest living tree in the world with a known planting date. As you can imagine, Buddhism took hold almost immediately and became the official state religion. So, what did this mean for the kingdom? Well, for the king, it changed everything. Look at this comparison. Before Buddhism, the king was basically a secular ruler, a warlord. His power came from his bloodline and his army. But after? The role totally shifts. He becomes the protector of the faith. His authority isn't just about military might anymore. It's about upholding Rajadharma, the principles of being a just and righteous ruler. He wasn't just in charge of the state, he was now responsible for the spiritual health of his entire kingdom. That's a massive change. So now you've got this incredible combination, right?
You've got a stable society with plenty of food, thanks to their engineering, and now you have this powerful unifying faith. What happens when you put those two things together? You get a golden age. And boy, did they express it. They poured all that wealth and all that devotion into building things on a scale that is just hard to comprehend.
Just try to wrap your head around this number, 93.3 million. That's how many baked bricks they think went into building a single monument, the Jetavāra Stupa. For 15 years, a huge workforce of skilled builders worked on this thing. When it was finished, it was the largest brick structure anywhere in the ancient world. Just incredible. And they weren't just stacking bricks either. They were building these things to last forever. Check out this quote from the Mahavamsa, their ancient chronicles. They laid copper sheets over the foundation. They used arsenic dissolved in sesame oil. Why? To stop insects and plant roots from getting in and destroying the structure from below. This isn't just construction. This is advanced material science thousands of years ago. Even the small details tell these huge stories. Take the Sandakadapahana, the moonstone you find at the entrance of their temples. It looks like just a beautiful carved semicircle, right? But it's not. It's a roadmap to enlightenment. As a worshiper, you literally walk through the story. You start at the outer ring of flames, that's worldly suffering. Then you cross the animals, representing the cycle of birth, old age, sickness, and death. You pass the vine of craving, and then you see the swans, which represent purity. And then finally, you step over the center, the lotus, which symbolizes reaching nirvana itself. It's genius. But as we know, even the greatest golden ages have to end. And after more than a millennium of incredible achievements, things started to go wrong for Anuradhapura. It was a perfect storm, really. A combination of problems from the inside and pressure from the outside that began to tear this amazing civilization apart. And this is how it all fell apart. It was like a domino effect. It all started when the king's central power began to weaken. And what's the first thing to go? The irrigation network. It fell into neglect. No water means no crops. No crops means no grain tax. No tax money means King Mahinda V couldn't pay his army of mercenaries. And what do unpaid mercenaries do? They revolt. The king had to flee his own capital, leaving it wide open. In 1017, the Chola dynasty from India swept in, conquered the city, and just like that, a 1,500-year reign was over. So after all that, we're left with this question. What can these ancient engineers teach us today? I mean, their story is more than just history. It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? It shows us that the link between how we manage our environment and whether our civilization thrives or collapses, well, that link is unbreakable. And today, as we face our own challenges with climate change and resources running low, you have to wonder if the wisdom of these ancient masters of water is more important now than ever before.